It's 2024, and every day, world leaders are making moves that could spark the next global war. But what if I told you that, behind closed doors, the very people who claim to prevent war are the ones secretly pushing for it? In this video, we'll uncover the shocking secrets behind this conflict and how major countries are preparing for it. By the end of the video, you'll understand why World War III is likely to happen, the major players and their enemies, and even how billionaires like Elon Musk might react to this event. Stick around because this is going to change a lot about how you've been thinking about today's world. Number 1. Why the war might hit in the next 1 or 2 years. Major conflicts are getting worse. The war in Ukraine, started by Russia, isn't calming down. The US and NATO are giving weapons to Ukraine, raising the chance of a bigger fight. Meanwhile, China is increasing military pressure on Taiwan, which could lead to direct clashes with the US. The fighting in Israel and Gaza is getting worse. Israel is hitting back hard against Hamas, and countries like Iran are getting involved. The US, Russia, and China are at odds. Russia's actions in Europe and China's ambitions in the South China Sea make it easy for mistakes to happen. While countries like the United States, Russia, and China are increasing their weapons and troops. Russia is modernizing its nuclear weapons, the US is strengthening its position in the Pacific, and China is expanding its navy. This arms race raises the chance of accidents leading to global conflict. Talking of economic issues, many countries are dealing with high inflation and food shortages. Fun fact, when people are angry about money, they might support wars to distract from their problems. Nations like Russia and China could act more aggressively if their economies struggle. Countries like the US and UK have heavily influenced global economics and politics. This has caused anger in countries like Russia and China. They're working hard to reduce that influence. The fighting in Syria and Yemen pulls in major powers. Iran's involvement with US and Russian interests keeps tensions high. Any rise in conflict could quickly spread beyond these regions. China invading Taiwan could be a major risk. If it happens, it would likely draw the US and its allies into direct conflict with China. China sees Taiwan as part of its territory, while Taiwan values its independence. This clash could spark a major war. Cyber attacks are becoming more common, and if one country hacks another's systems, it could lead to real fighting, starting a war without warning. Meanwhile, territorial disputes in areas like the South China Sea and Ukraine are heating up, with nations clashing over land and resources, not to even talk about technological advancements in AI, drones, and missiles. This makes a dangerous situation even more volatile. Lastly, Russia and North Korea have made nuclear threats in recent years. Russia's nuclear talk around Ukraine and North Korea's missile tests raise the risk of nuclear weapons in future wars, while nations are boosting their defense budgets, preparing for future fights. This arms race, combined with rising tensions, increases the chance of preemptive strikes. Number 2. Major players and enemies. The US is a major global player and a key member of NATO. It is expected to be involved in any future global conflict, with some people believing it would fight alongside the UK. The US is already engaged in conflicts like Ukraine and tensions in the South China Sea. Russia is seen as a significant threat, as some people expect it to oppose the US and its allies. Its ongoing invasion of Ukraine shows its willingness to use military force. Russia's close ties with countries like Iran and North Korea add to its threat level. China is increasingly seen as a major player, with about 64% of the public believing it could be involved in a conflict against Western nations. Its ambitions towards Taiwan and assertiveness in the South China Sea raise fears of a direct confrontation with the US. North Korea's nuclear capabilities and aggressive posture make it a wild card in global tensions. Around 64% of people believe it would side with Russia and China in a potential conflict. While Iran's role in the Middle East is critical, with about 68% of the public thinking it would be involved in a conflict against the West. Its support for groups like Hezbollah and its opposition to US interests keep it in the spotlight. Countries like the UK, France, and Germany are expected to align against threats from Russia and its allies. In a conflict, many believe the UK would stand with France and Germany, as well as other allies like Poland and Australia. The BRICS alliance, including Russia and China, aims to challenge Western power. However, it's important to note that this group is not a military alliance. A significant number of people are unsure about which countries would side with whom. Some even believe friendly nations like Israel and Japan could be on opposing sides, highlighting the complexity of modern alliances. Number 3. Who are those who might push the button? First, the United States. The US holds the largest nuclear arsenal in the world and has a history of using nuclear weapons as a deterrent. With a strong military presence globally, any major conflict involving the US could escalate quickly, especially if its allies are threatened. Second, Russia. Russia is known for its aggressive military posture and has a significant nuclear arsenal. The Russian government has openly discussed the use of nuclear weapons in regional conflicts, especially in response to NATO activities near its borders. This makes Russia a key player that might push the button in a tense situation. Third, China has been modernizing its military and expanding its nuclear capabilities. As tensions rise over Taiwan and in the South China Sea, China's leadership may resort to extreme measures to assert its dominance, making it another potential trigger for nuclear conflict. Fourth, North Korea. North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has repeatedly threatened to use nuclear weapons in response to perceived threats from the US and South Korea. Its continued missile tests and nuclear development make it a wild card in any potential global conflict. Fifth, Pakistan. Pakistan has a history of conflict with India, particularly over the Kashmir region. With both countries possessing nuclear weapons, any escalation in tensions could lead to a situation where Pakistan might feel compelled to use its nuclear arsenal. 6. India. India, also a nuclear-armed nation, could respond with force if faced with an aggressive move from Pakistan or China. The history of military conflicts and territorial disputes increases the chances of India being involved in a nuclear crisis. 7th. Israel. While Israel has never officially confirmed its nuclear capabilities, it is widely believed to possess them. In the context of regional threats from Iran and militant groups, Israel might consider a preemptive strike if it feels its existence is at stake. 8. Iran. Although Iran does not currently have nuclear weapons, its ongoing nuclear program has raised concerns among Western nations and Israel. If Iran were to acquire nuclear capabilities, it could change the regional power dynamics, prompting preemptive strikes from its adversaries. Number 4. Military tensions. Participants and troops. United States military. The U.S. has one of the most advanced militaries globally, focusing on high-tech weaponry and a strong naval presence. The U.S. Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps can rapidly deploy worldwide. With bases in strategic locations, U.S. forces can respond quickly to conflicts, making them a significant player in any future war. NATO allies, including the United Kingdom, France, and Germany, contribute to a collective defense strategy. NATO troops are trained for rapid response and interoperability, ready to assist the U.S. in escalating conflicts in Europe or elsewhere. Russian armed forces. Russia's military is known for its large ground forces and extensive arsenal of nuclear weapons. Russia has been involved in various conflicts, including Ukraine and Syria, showcasing its capabilities and readiness to engage in large-scale operations. Russia and Iran are strengthening military ties, which could involve direct confrontations with Israel's allies, including the U.S., in a worst-case scenario. Chinese military. China's People's Liberation Army, PLA, is rapidly modernizing and expanding, focusing on improving its naval and air capabilities concerning Taiwan and the South China Sea. With millions of active personnel and advanced technology, China represents a formidable force that could engage in conflict with significant regional and global implications. North Korean military. North Korea maintains a large standing army and focuses on developing its missile capabilities. The military's readiness to respond to threats from the U.S. and South Korea poses a constant danger in East Asia, making it a critical player in any potential conflict. Iranian armed forces. Iran has a significant military presence in the Middle East, focusing on asymmetric warfare tactics, including the use of proxy groups in Iraq and Syria. The ongoing tensions between Israel, Iran, and other nations in the Middle East continue to escalate. The US and UK have already been involved, with their warships coming under fire while protecting other vessels. Allied forces from Russia and China, countries like Iran, Syria, and North Korea may support Russia and China in a potential conflict. Their military capabilities may not match those of superpowers, but can disrupt and challenge US and NATO operations through guerrilla tactics and cyber warfare. Regional forces and hotspots. In conflicts like the Israeli-Palestinian situation, local military groups, such as Hamas and Hezbollah, could play significant roles. Their involvement might draw in regional powers, escalating conflicts that could trigger wider military engagements. Private military contractors, PMCs. The use of PMCs is on the rise, with companies like Wagner Group from Russia and various American firms involved in military operations. These contractors often operate in gray areas of international law, potentially complicating conflicts and military engagements. The looming threat of World War III. There's ongoing debate about whether World War III has already begun. Some argue we are in the early stages, while others suggest that it won't truly begin until direct conflict arises between Western powers and nations like Russia or China. Although the use of nuclear weapons could spiral the world into chaos, for now, proxy wars and strategic maneuvers seem more likely. However, it's evident that any conflict would have widespread global ramifications. Number 5. The use of nuclear weapons. Who will supply and who will use the primary countries with nuclear capabilities are the United States, Russia, China, France, and the United Kingdom. Each of these nations possesses large arsenals of nuclear weapons, and their policies shape global nuclear strategy. Russia has the largest stockpile of nuclear warheads and has openly stated its willingness to use nuclear weapons in defense of its interests, particularly in conflicts like Ukraine. North Korea has aggressively pursued nuclear weapons to deter perceived threats from the US and its allies. Their leadership has expressed intentions to use nuclear arms if faced with invasion or serious conflict. China is modernizing its nuclear arsenal and expanding its capabilities. If conflict arises, particularly over Taiwan, China could resort to nuclear options to assert dominance. Iran. Although not yet a nuclear power, Iran's advancements in nuclear technology raise concerns. If they develop nuclear weapons, they may use them as a deterrent against regional adversaries, especially Israel and Saudi Arabia. Also, the risk of nuclear weapons falling into the hands of terrorist organizations poses a severe threat. Groups like ISIS have shown interest in acquiring nuclear materials, which could lead to catastrophic consequences if they succeed. This scenario heightens the urgency for international monitoring and controls. But this can't happen unless these two laws are broken: the mutually assured destruction, where the US and Russia operate under this principle, suggesting that neither side would use nuclear weapons first due to the guaranteed destruction that would follow, and the no first use policy, where countries like China have stated they would not use nuclear weapons unless attacked first. But this policy is not universally accepted. Number 6. Where would the war take place? If this war happens, it is likely to hit in different places. Firstly, the ongoing war in Ukraine is a major flashpoint. If tensions escalate, this region could become the center of a broader conflict involving NATO and Russia. Taiwan is another critical area. If China decides to invade Taiwan to assert its claims, it could provoke a military response from the US and its allies. The South China Sea is also a hotbed of territorial disputes, with military tensions rising among China, the Philippines, Vietnam, and the US Navy. Also, the conflict between Israel and Hamas has intensified. If Iran gets involved, or if the fighting spreads to other nations, it could trigger a wider regional war. While the Korean Peninsula remains a dangerous area, North Korea's unpredictable behavior and nuclear ambitions could lead to a military confrontation. Any conflict here could easily involve South Korea and the US, potentially escalating to a larger war, which can also fast forward to countries like Syria and Yemen, which are already battlegrounds for proxy wars involving major powers like the US, Russia, and Iran. The locations of potential conflicts indicate that a third world war could have consequences felt around the world. Economic and humanitarian impacts would extend far beyond the initial battlefields, affecting millions. Number 7. How long will the war last? If World War III were to break out, experts believe it could last anywhere from a few months to several years. The length of the conflict would depend on various factors, including the scale of military engagement, the countries involved, and the effectiveness of diplomatic efforts to resolve the situation. Some analysts suggest that initial battles might be quick and intense, especially if nuclear weapons are involved, including the introduction of new technologies, such as drones and cyber warfare. Number 8. How would major cities like New York, Tokyo, and Paris survive? Major cities have emergency plans and infrastructure designed to withstand disasters. New York, for instance, has a comprehensive emergency management plan that includes evacuation routes, shelter facilities, and communication strategies. Tokyo is known for its advanced earthquake-resistant buildings and strict building codes, which could help it endure various types of attacks. Cities like New York and Paris have a significant police and military presence. During heightened tensions, these cities would likely increase security measures, including surveillance, checkpoints, and military patrols, to protect citizens and deter potential threats. In the event of rising tensions or conflict, Governments would likely launch public awareness campaigns to educate citizens on emergency protocols. This could include information on evacuation procedures, safe locations, and how to respond to different types of attacks. Emergency services like hospitals would be on high alert, ready to respond to any crisis. Countries that are allies may work together to share intelligence and resources to protect their major urban centers, recognizing their importance in global affairs. The unique cultural and historical significance of cities like New York, Tokyo, and Paris means that they are often prioritized for protection. Efforts may be made to preserve key landmarks and infrastructure to maintain national pride and identity. Number 9. How will billionaires react? Billionaires like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and more might likely shift their investment strategies to protect their wealth. This might include moving assets into safer havens like gold, bonds, or cryptocurrencies, which are often seen as safe during uncertain times. Some may also invest in essential goods and resources, like food and water, to hedge against shortages. With the potential for conflict, many billionaires will enhance their personal security. This could involve hiring private security teams, installing advanced security systems in their homes, and seeking safe havens in less volatile regions or even abroad. Some billionaires may increase their philanthropic efforts, focusing on humanitarian aid and support for those affected by the conflict. They might lobby governments to avoid escalation or to invest in diplomatic solutions rather than military actions. In extreme scenarios, some billionaires might consider relocating themselves and their families to safer countries or other planets. Some may choose to take a stand, either supporting diplomatic efforts or criticizing military actions, while others may prefer to remain neutral to protect their business interests. Number 10. Who will win the war? The outcome of a potential World War III will largely depend on military strength. Countries like the US and Russia have extensive military capabilities, including advanced technology and nuclear arsenals. The US has a robust global presence with NATO allies, while Russia's strength lies in its numbers and strategic positioning. The war's winner could be influenced by alliances. If NATO members stand united against an aggressor like Russia or China, their collective military might could tip the scales. Conversely, if countries like China and Russia strengthen their ties within BRICS and other alliances, they could create a formidable opposition. Some individuals lean towards expecting the West to prevail in potential conflicts. Some believe the West would win against Russia, compared to some who think otherwise. A similar margin exists regarding China, with believes that the West would defeat China and its allies, while others think that China and its allies will win. However, confidence drops when considering a scenario where the West confronts both Russia and China simultaneously. Here, some people, about 31%, will expect victory for the West, but 21% feel otherwise. The US has been investing heavily in AI, cyber warfare, and advanced missile systems. If these technologies are deployed effectively, they could alter the dynamics of the conflict. Winning a war is not just about military might. Economic stability plays a crucial role. Countries with stronger economies can sustain longer military engagements. Nations that can maintain supply chains and support their armed forces will have an advantage. Sanctions and economic pressures can also impact the aggressor's ability to sustain a war effort. The introduction of nuclear weapons into the conflict could drastically change the outcome, where either US, Russia, or North Korea could lead the top. If either side feels cornered, the decision to use nuclear weapons could lead to catastrophic consequences, making it hard to determine a winner. Geopolitical shifts may determine the winner. For example, if nations in Asia align against US influence, it could lead to a new power balance. Global public opinion and diplomatic relations will play a significant role in shaping alliances and conflicts. And that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. What do you think will happen if World War III broke out? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Stay tuned.